Hey guys, this is Fady from Harpy Productions and welcome to another video. I've made a couple videos before about analog summing, but I've noticed that in the last actually several months, I've had many conversations with studio owners, and a lot of people ask the question, why? What's the purpose of analog summing? Why do I do it? What do I benefit from it? And what does it do to my mix? So in today's video, I decided to make this really quick, simple, short video to kind of explain my view on analog summing and why is this beneficial. So back in the day, all mixing engineers, they used to mix on consoles. And on consoles, you have an 8-channel console, 16-channel console, 24-channel console, whatever console that you got. And then you got, like, your drums are going through channel 1 to 8, and then you got some vocals, you got some guitars and keys or whatever. And everything is passing through analog transformers. So this is number one. Number two, in a console, in a real analog console, the tone or the transformers of each channel are not 1000% identical like a DAW. So on a DAW, channel 1 and channel 2 and channel 17 are exactly identical because it's a digital channel, not an analog. But there is a slight discrepancy, and we're talking here a hair, 0.0 something, between channel 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Automatically what that does is kind of there's a little bit of slight discrepancy between each channel. It kind of opens your mix a little wider. It's kind of more like a 3D effect where it feels wider. It separates the frequencies a little bit where you can hear things clearer versus everything feels cramped right there. It kind of opens it up more, as well as it adds more warmth to your mix through the transformers. Now, when we switch from, and lots of engineers now, they do not even mix on analog console. A lot of medium-sized, smaller size, even big-size studios I've seen, they use this big analog MIDI controller. Like myself in here, I use the S3 MIDI controller, but not an actual console. So we lost that effect that the analog board has added to my mix. So how to gain that back without having to purchase a full console is through analog summing unit. Whether it's an 8-channel summing, 16-channel summing, 32 or 24, depending on which unit you buy. So I'm using the Dangerous Bus LT, which I believe I have a video on YouTube explaining how to set it up and what I use it for. And then now I mix in my DAW, and I send my mix to 16 buses, mono buses, or because my analog summing unit is a 16-channel or like 8 stereo or a blend of both. And then I take those 16 channels, they come out of my interface as physical 16 audio outputs, go to my summing unit as 16 audio, and then they get summed inside and comes back to my interface in a stereo channel, 2, left and right. What does that do? It kind of gives me back what the analog console used to do. It's running through 16 transformers, and then now it's going to depend on which unit do you have. Like I'm using the Dangerous, so I'm running through the Dangerous transformers. If you're using an SSL summing mixer, then you're using SSL transformers, an API summing mixer, a NEF summing mixer, and there's all these different companies, depending on what flavor of console you prefer. And then the audio passing through this, it's getting that transformers, and then it's getting that hair of discrepancy. It feels a bit wider, it feels a bit warmer, and then it separates frequency better. You can hear things much better. I try to use plugins to emulate this because, for example, NLS from Waves kind of try to do the same thing, and I believe Slate has one as well. It's still not the same because it's still digital versus a true analog unit. And the cool thing is those summing mixers are not crazy expensive. Like, I mean, you can get some used ones for 500 bucks. And then you get a much better analog warmth out of your mix versus just staying fully in the box. I even had a conversation with a friend a few days ago, and he was asking me, what is the first analog unit I would purchase as a mixing engineer? Because he mixes fully in the box. And my answer was, before you even try to look for analog EQs and compression and stuff like that, start with a summing mixer. Because with starting with a summing mixer, you're getting so much more analog warmth on your mix that is so significant and so hard to replicate inside your DAW. And then after that, look into some EQs and stuff like that. Now there is one thing I want to consider here, and I want to just emphasize on, when you use a summing mixer, you're using a lot of converters because there are 16 channels of audio output coming from your interface. So you're using 16 converters, or 8 or 24 or 32, according to how many summing mixer channels you're using. The more the better, obviously. So if your interface doesn't have good converters, and converters are cheap, they're adding more color to your mix than more than you would prefer, or they're adding more harmonic distortions or something like that, then I would maybe reconsider the summing mixer until you have an interface with better converters. Because you're using a lot of converters. So let's say in my case, I'm using 16 channels of audio coming out. So that's 16 converters, and then they come back as line in left and right. That's 2 more channels of converters. So that's 18 channel of being converted through my interface. I use the Galaxy interface from Antelope Audio, which I love. The converters on this thing sounds absolutely phenomenal, so I don't have a problem. But if I had a cheaper interface and I'm using all that conversion on a cheap interface, I don't know how I would feel about it, because I would probably prefer to stay in the box versus doing the summing mixer. So I would say maybe converters first, and if you got those and you're happy with your converters and you trust them, then summing mixer would be the next. So anyways, in a nutshell, this is kind of my take on summing mixer, why I use it, why I recommend it for mixing engineer. Obviously, does not affect tracking. This is mostly just for mixing. So I hope this was helpful for you. And if you have any questions, put it in the comments below and I will work on answering them. And make sure to subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video.